So next we will have Larry with us. He's a thought leader on DevSecOps. At Comcast, he launched and scaled the DevSecOps Transformation program over 5 years. It's quite a big one. And he is now at Contrast, helping organizations empower development teams to take ownership of security. Take ownership, that's like shift left. Larry was a founding director at Carnegie Mellon CyLab and co-lead the launch of Build Security In initiative. So Larry, thank you very much for having you with us, and the stage is now yours. Please share your screen.
Thanks, Zilla. So Larry Maccherone, shift left, not shit left or shit right, as Zillard was saying, is the talk here. And the idea here is that you have to think about moving security or quality ownership into the development team very carefully, or it feels like it's forced and it won't fit the way developers do it. So developers are going to do quality and security differently than the way the quality specialists or the security specialists would do it. So that's sort of the content of the talk, and we'll get into it now and walk you through all that. But I work for a company named Contrast. I'm not going to do an ad for Contrast. This is sort of the overview of our offering. I will say, though, that everything I'm going to say in this talk here now aligns well with the way this product is designed. And if you want to know more, we're actually have a virtual booth in the expo, and we're going to do a demo of the product right after my talk here. So I'll follow folks over there. So how do you get this shift left? How do you accelerate into this? And the first thing, and this is going to be a repeat of a lot of what Dan says, so I'm going to move quickly through it, is really about mindset. And there's a concept for security folks that they think gatekeeping and quality folks and cajoling and policy enforcement. And this doesn't actually work. It doesn't actually scale. The team has to actually have ownership of the problem here. And here's some reasons. First of all, everyone knows it can't keep up with the accelerating pace of development, but there's some other things that are really more subtle, but I would say insidious and something you gotta worry about. This work of cajoling a team that's external to yourself is soul-crushing work. Nobody wants to be constantly calling somebody else's baby ugly all day long, which is essentially what external quality feedback and external security feedback feels like to the development team. And the people giving this feedback know that that's the way it's perceived. It's inherently confrontational. At best, you often get a checkbox response, meaning not effective. I'm just doing this because you asked me to. I don't actually believe this is really going to help. Policies are rarely context sensitive and often are out of date. So if you're enforcing a policy, that can be problematic. So you fall back to one of two things. You either arbitrarily force parts of the policy, or your interpretation of the policy, not the way it's actually worded, if you're the policy enforcer, or you try to do a full audit, letter of the law, and that gets depressing and too much information for folks. So what do you do instead? What is the soft skills way of thinking about how you get this true shifting left of ownership of more of the process of software development? And the very first thing you have to focus on is how you think about the concepts and how you speak about them. And I actually, this quote on the left makes it sound like thoughts lead to words, lead to actions on to destiny. But I actually think that the first two of these could be swapped. And in some ways, the words you use, the definitions you have of the words constrain your thoughts. And so I'm actually going to focus on that second one here for a second here. Because I really think that's where you start. If your terminology is off, the development team will sense that, and they will rebel almost. They will basically dismiss you. They don't even know they're doing it necessarily, but they're like, oh, that QA person thinks we work like this, but we don't really work like that. we're agile or we're DevOps or you know, but it's too much effort to try to correct them. So I'm just going to let them have that misconception, and they've tuned out at that point. And that's really what happens a lot of times. Often also you find folks whose world has been disrupted, the QA department or the security department, by a DevOps movement, for instance, and they don't want that disruption to have affected their life, and so they repurpose the language. I've heard people use the phrase DevOps to mean essentially the old throw it over the wall ops way of doing things, and it's just the new term. And you know, I'm no longer an ops engineer; I'm a DevOps engineer. I didn't change how I do my job; I just changed my title. And that's Larman's laws of organizational behavior is sort of the other thing. So words matter, and you got to be careful about them. So let's poke at a few words here. The word DevOps. In the case of security, a lot of times security tool vendors and security folks will put the word DevOps on their thing, or DevSecOps on their thing, and it's really just lipstick on a pig. And really, if you want to think about what DevOps is to me, and this is not the only definition I think is good, but this is my favorite definition of what it is. And it fits exactly with sort of what Dan was saying. So hopefully this audience is sort of tuned to this. It is about empowering engineering teams to take ownership of their products all the way to production, including quality, including security. You don't need the sec and the quality in there, because just saying DevOps is it really DevOps was invented essentially to accomplish this. And so Gene Kim, the author of the Phoenix Project, where basically the godfather of launching the DevOps movement. You know, these quotes, I'm not going to read them here, but these are sort of the things that are really important to me out of the Phoenix Project. And Dan mentioned the 3 ways. And so, you know, I'm not going to repeat those here. But basically this concept that I'm about to get into the details of is really based on this whole idea here. Okay, so you can't, as folks say, you can't sort of, the speaker before Dan, I can't remember his name now, but the speaker before Dan said, you can't buy a service, culture transformation as a service, right? You have to actually do it. And I really believe that. But you can be systematic about how you go about accomplishing that in your organization. You can't outsource it, but here's some tips, some things that would sort of be along the right direction of actually doing what we're saying. And coaching is the first of these. And when I launched the program at Comcast for DevSecOps Transformation, I hired Scrum Masters into this coaching role. I didn't hire security people, which is very hard to get through my HR department and my boss sort of understanding why I'm hiring Scrum Masters into a security role. But the idea here is that Scrum Masters are used to working with teams and helping them transform their process. And so they have the right skills. And that's what I was looking for. And then I created this gradual on-ramp. And this is really the key to the whole program for cultural transformation for me, is you have to have this gradual on-ramp, and you have to coach teams onto that on-ramp and along that path of maturing, and you use gamification and psychology and sociology to sort of accomplish all that. I've simplified it a little bit systematically here to essentially what you might think of as a maturity model, although most people list the practices and call that the maturity model. I would rather talk about, for each practice that you think is a mature team is doing, you know, what are the steps you actually have to go through in order to really be getting value out of adopting that thing. And this is that maturity model for me. It's THWAC is the acronym: thoughts, words, actions, culture, based on the sort of quote I showed earlier. First of all, you're basically gonna ask a team to self-assess themselves on a particular practice. And before you do this, it's unknown. You have no idea how mature they are on this practice. If they haven't put much thought into it, then, you know, today we're talking about it, so at least a little bit of thoughts going on about it. Words means we've made plans or we're making plans to adopt this practice. We're in the process of adopting it. Action, I'm sorry, we're not in the process of adopting it. We're working on the plans for adopting it, getting resources, etc. Actions is we are in the process of adopting it. Maybe we've done it for 3 of our 5 applications, or we've gotten 10 of the 20 people trained that we want to get trained, etc. And then culture is for every opportunity where we could be doing this, we're getting maximum value out of it, of doing it. And that's the culture level. So this is my maturity model. How does a coach use this maturity model? Well, the coach sits down with the development team and hosts a 90-minute workshop. And in this workshop, there is a list of practices that has been agreed upon in advance. It's not my list of practices, but it's your organization's list of practices. This is what engineering and security or engineering and quality have agreed on, are sort of good things for development teams to be doing if they truly own the quality and the security of their products. And we go through these one at a time. They're force ranked, so that the best bang for the buck, the highest effect for the least amount of effort, are sort of first. And we start talking about them. We say, hey, this is practice XYZ. In the case of security, let's say it's get every one on the team through a 2 to 3 hour secure coding training. Get everyone trained on secure coding in a 2 or 3 hour session. Why have you done this? Oh no, we haven't done this yet. Well, what's preventing you from doing it? Can we remove any obstacles? Oh no, we just need to find the time and schedule it. Basically, the coach is having a conversation with the team about this practice, and it's not a survey. It's basically, I'm here to help you do this stuff. We're going to just talk about them and we're going to riff off of whatever you say here. But they are going to sort of record, where would you say you are on this? Are you at words? Are you at thoughts? Are you at actions? Are you at culture for this? And for everything that you're not at culture for, that you basically going to put it in a little bucket saying, essentially, these are opportunities for improvement. And once you get 2 to 3 of these sort of opportunities for improvement, you stop the gap analysis part of the workshop, because they don't need to know the other 40 things that you think a super mature team will do, and if the top 2 or 3 they're not doing. And you just really want to switch out of audit mode and tallying up how bad they are mode, and into, hey, here's what you could be improving on. Let's now focus on the plans for making this better. And at the end of the session, you ask the team to commit to 1 to 3 practices. They're going to turn 1 shade of green darker. This is the shades of green: thoughts, words, actions, culture, in the next 90 days. And you ask the whole team to commit to this. And you go around the room one at a time, and you start with the product owners in the room, because they're the ones who can say, no, we can't do that stuff because we got a lot of products to get out. And they're going to be the ones that push out. So they have to actually be in the session for this to work. So this is the heart of my whole cultural transformation program, and the rest of this talk sort of fleshes it out a little bit, but you now have sort of the meat of it all here in what I've already said. This is what it looks like when you track it over a couple of years for a team, and even after a couple of years, this team still has some stuff we've never really talked about with them. Maybe there are new practices that came in. And some stuff has been marked not applicable, essentially, for that team. And the stuff in the upper left corner are the really key things that the team were asked to focus on. And we never show them this full table at the beginning. We really just show them one of these at a time, and then the table gets fleshed out over time.
Hi, we are Eficode, and we organize the DevOps conference. We think that DevOps solves the conflict between security and the rate of innovation. If you are burdened by compliance, regulation, and red tape, we would love to talk and help you with your next steps. You can find us at eficode.com. The links are in the description, and have a great time with the DevOps conference talks.
So the other role I think you need to have is you need to have the security people and the quality people stop thinking of themselves as those gatekeepers, and they need to shift into this coaching role, but they also can shift into a toolsmithing role as well. You basically want to make the easy path be the right path. And in the case of security, you want to plug in the feedback exactly where the quality feedback is coming right now. And ideally, this is in the pull merge request is the ideal place for it. Why is that the case? Well, the developer is essentially enthralled with their code that they wrote that morning, and it's their new heartthrob, okay? And they want nothing more than their teammates to sort of be enthralled with that new code. They want to get the validation of having that code be accepted into the next higher level branch in that afternoon. And so if you provide feedback in the pull request when it's in draft mode, when none of the rest of their teammates can see it, no reviewers can see it, they're going to say, oh, I got to clean up these red X's on the pull request because I don't want anyone else to see that. And so the person is really super highly motivated to developers, super highly motivated. It's the code they wrote that morning. It's their job. It's the thing they intended to do today. And they can't actually get it into the product and deliver value for their team and their organization until they do this. And now think about the way security and quality feedback sometimes comes in the form of a ticket. That ticket goes into the product backlog, which then has to bubble up to the top of the product backlog. Then it gets scheduled into a sprint backlog. By this time, the developer might not even be working on that team. But, even if they are, they might not get the assignment. And even if they do get the assignment for that or pull that card off of the ready column in a Kanban sort of model, it's 3 weeks ago. They've moved on to a new heartthrob. That was the code they wrote that morning. They're much less enthralled about that and less interested in doing it. And you've lost that momentum there. So this is why the pull request is the ideal place for this kind of feedback. Accelerator number 4 is to optimize for learning. And this is the third way of the DevOps three ways of Gene Kim, which Dan also mentioned. The pull request is the second way, is feedback, and flow is sort of baked into the metrics. I'll show you a little bit here, but so you really want, in the case of security, you really want to optimize, and in the case of quality, you really want to optimize for the third order effect, not the first order effect, which is the find and fix effect. So the first order effect is to take what was found and fix it. And everybody does that. I call this the find and fix effect. And let's call that 1x effective. That's the baseline for this sort of soft model. It's not a hard calculation. But you should do 2 other things. That's why it's called the 3-step. Defect, vulnerability, incident, 3-step. Think of every defect, vulnerability incident as a learning opportunity. And if you're going to think of it as a learning opportunity, not just a checklist item, you're going to go past the find and fix step. The second step is to find others like it in the product, not just the ones that were found, but sort of abstract that thing that was found into a pattern that you could look for elsewhere in your product and find and fix those. And then the third one is change something. And often most often the change is just deep learning. If a developer writes a SQL injection and it gets caught by a scanning tool in the pull request, and they have to go watch a little 2 to 3 minute video to learn what an SQL injection is and then fix it, they're never going to write an SQL injection again. That learning is deep. And so not only do you get the fix, but you actually get that developer never writing this problem ever again for the rest of their career. And I call this the 100x. I label this as a 100x effect of this. On to metrics now, and then we'll wrap up and do some questions. So this is sort of the way I use metrics. And so metrics is really a feedback mechanism as well. But then there's 3 kinds of feedback I'm essentially looking for with the metrics system for security. First of all is I want the ability to engage leadership so they're supportive of what we're doing. And so I need visualizations and feedback that sort of I can use to sort of coach the leaders in a part of the organization, all the way up to the high level executives as well. The most important one, though, is actually the second one. There is I need a way to feed information back to the development team themselves, so that they can improve, that they know that they're improving, that they feel, oh, it went up. That feels good to me. That's a psychology, sociology kind of thing. And then the third way is sort of a meta feedback on the whole program. I mean, this list of 40 practices, are they the right practices? Which ones actually produce a risk reduction in production versus ones that are just a waste of time? And so that's the third sort of feedback mechanism I'm looking for here. So this is an example of what I use to coach the development teams, though, and it's a cumulative flow diagram. So it's from the Kanban world, the lean Kanban world, and it's exactly the concept of that. The way you read this for security findings, though, is the top line goes up when a new finding is found by a tool or human or whatever. The green line goes up when they're resolved, and then this blue line goes up when the team essentially rejects the finding, says this was a false positive, this is not a real risk. And so this is an example of an unhealthy team's use of tools for feedback. The gap here is no smaller than it is, back here. It's arguably larger, and it was much larger right here after they onboarded a new app. And so to address that, what they did is they marked essentially half of those things that were found, or 2/3 of the things that were found. The height of this cliff, this is 2/3 as big as that, as false positives and as noise. And so this is not going well. Now, the funny thing is that if you weren't looking at a graph like this, the average security person would say, oh, well, we did all this green line's going up. We resolved a bunch of things. This is going well. No, this is what a healthy team looks like. The orange line goes up and the green line catches up with it and never leaves it again. And the orange line levels out and stays level. That indicates that the learning has occurred during this climbing of this green thing. And so this is a perfect way to essentially gauge the true health of a development team. And I could tell a whole story around false positives, and we don't have time for that. But you basically can see everything about the team's health, and you can coach to this diagram every team to improve. This is the feedback I use for management. And it trends over time. Each of these arcs is a particular team in their domain. And then, these are the ones that have fully adopted and they're doing great on secrets management, but not so great on this practice. And so maybe that's an area of focus for that organization, part of the organization. I did a talk at the RSA conference where I basically drilled down into this feedback on the whole program called The Impact of DevSecOps Quantified. And it showed that teams that adopt even just 2 or 3 of these key practices have an 85% reduction in risk on the wire, incidents in production reduction here. So please visit that YouTube link. I can post it in the channel for you directly. And this is the sort of the security practices that bubbled to the top. But note that in that talk, there were a number of security practices that were net negative value. And those are the ones we had to basically remove from the program or completely revamp because they weren't doing well. So the feedback mechanism worked. I'm going to pause here and if we have a time for maybe 1 or 2 questions, but I do want to remind folks that we do have a virtual booth over in the expo. I'm going to bop over there right after this, so you can ask more questions there if we don't get to them here. And we also have the opportunity to do a demo of the Contrast product to see how it fits with this concept. So hi, Nina and Zillard.
Hello. Thank you for the talk. It was great.
It was brilliant, and thank you very much. We have few questions already, but before we go there, I just liked in the graph when the rejection started to jump up very close to, to the deadline, the delivery deadline. Yes, on the unhealthy one. So I think that's yes, it's exactly like human behavior, right? And pressure from the deadline. That was like, we don't care, we need to shift. Now all of these are false negatives. as a tester, this is how I read this chart. So
yeah, this is a. I mean, there's like stories and stories you can tell out of these schema flow diagrams, and often I sit down with a team and I just sort of like show them this, and I'm like, well, what happened here? What was this spike? And what happened here? What was this spike? And they know they like, well, you know, you get a lot of deep insight from the team when they sort of self-reflect with a visualization like this.
Very good. Thank you very much. So one question, or actually a comment. I don't think all developers are in love with their code, and that all they want is to show how wonderful it is to other developers. And I've been a developer, so the person being a developer for 25 years, so I'm sure he is right. I think that's a very non-diverse way of seeing the developer community.
A non-diverse way of seeing them. In what way is it non-diverse? I mean, I don't want to say that every developer is in love with all of their code. I hate a lot of my code, right? Especially the code that I wrote in Perl years ago, because I can't even read my own Perl. But you know, I think in general that idea that they're more passionate about the work that's more recent to them is the main point I was trying to make.
Absolutely. And again, this is a similar story that we teach in testing as well, right? That focus of developers is on building, focus of testers is typically on destroying or showing it doesn't work. So it's kind of a conflict all the time. And this is what we need to break, to work together and to be cooperative in the team.
Correct. Yeah, that's the point. Yeah.
All right. How do you balance gamifying improvements and not comparing dev teams negatively? Example, dev team A is greater than, but dev team B is terrible. Yeah, comparing them together typically always end up in kind of a fight, right? And a competition.
Yeah, I have a talk. It was probably my most popular talk when I was doing agile transformations. Basically, it was called the 7 paths to the dark side of metrics. And exactly what you said is one of the 7 is comparing directly. And so you really want the team, you really want the metric to be like a Fitbit, a fitness tracker on someone's wrist. It's not externally imposed. It's something that they benefit from. The metric benefits the team. And so you really want to make sure that's at the heart of everything you're doing. Now, if your team wants to know how good they're doing, it's okay to say, well, you're in the upper 10th percentile or the upper 25th percentile of all the teams in this organization. But it's a no-no, a big no-no to show team A and team B side by side in a column comparison. You really don't want that. That leads to a negative sort of thing. And then it leads to gamification, which essentially means the whole metric system becomes a waste of time because you can't trust it anymore.
So I very much agree with you. And I suggest to show more just the indicators, like the direction. Is it improving or worsening? And that you can compare, and then not actual data, because then it's absolute data many times are not comparable.
That's one of the other dark sides, is show the trend. I mean, you're hitting on all the dark sides of metrics, talk bullets. Yep. I think we hit on 4 of the 7 just now in this little riff here, but yeah.
Thank you very much, Larry. It was a great talk, and thank you for being with us.